This podcast is brought to you by The Way of the Modern Beast, beard care, grooming, and community for men. Make sure you head over to thewayofthemodernbeast.com and use the code BEASTPOD for a 10% off. Enjoy the show. What does it take to go from good to great? From fearsome to fierce? From being average to the most elite version of yourself? These are the questions that only action takers get to answer. If you're an entrepreneur ready to pay the price and win at all costs, this is the show that will help you get a clear vision, operate at the highest level, and learn from the best in the game to build your legacy. My name is Pedro Meneses, and these are the Chronicles of a Modern Beast. So what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Chronicle. As always, if this is your first time, make sure you subscribe. And don't forget to leave that review so more people can find the show. And also let us know if this show inspires you, if it changes your life, or even if it pisses you off, let me know because I will love all that feedback. And I'm excited about this guest today, guys, because we've been trying to get her here for a while already. You know, we found a couple of roadblocks. Hey, we're here. You know, there's a reason why I am a huge believer that we have find obstacles like that in your life because something good is going to come, you know? So I believe this is going to be a good conversation, which is why it was a little bit bumpy to get to this point, right? But she's a transformation life coach among so many other things and a best-selling author. And she focused on health and wellness for almost 20 years. And today she's here to help you conquer your fears and embrace your courage, pretty much to change your life. So welcome to the show, Nancy. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's been a long time in coming.
I know, right? But I'm excited, you know, like I was saying, I'm a huge believer when you start facing all this type of adversities because there's some force out there that it doesn't want to let you create something, you know, it doesn't want you to have a profound conversation or something that can actually impact someone's life right now, you know, especially during these crazy times. You know, we live in crazy times. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I think it's very important to guard our hearts and our minds and really feed ourselves with the right things, you know, so we can take our lives in the right direction because it's so easy to get distracted nowadays with all the noise, all the fear, all the distractions, the shiny objects, the politics, all that kind of stuff, right? But before we get into all that stuff, Nancy, why don't you go ahead, tell us a little more about yourself so people can get to know you.
Okay, I'd love to do that. So I live in Aspen, Colorado, and which is my dream place to live. And
I love it.
I'm out in nature every single day of my life, every season, every day. So that's what I do to feed my soul and open my heart is to get outside in nature. And I'm a master integrative coach, and I work with shadow beliefs. I help people uncover the disempowering beliefs that they don't even know they have. They actually rule their operating system and they keep them playing small. So they were formed as children to keep them safe, and they did. So we always want to have compassion for our disempowering beliefs from our childhood. But as adults, we have to uncover them so that they stop keeping us small. So maybe we'll get into that later some more, but that's basically all of my different coaching modalities. So regardless of why somebody comes to me, they want to get a new job, they want to move across the country, they want to lose 50 pounds, they want to heal a broken heart, they want to get into a relationship, whatever it is they want, there's always something, these shadow beliefs that are actually stopping them. They're keeping them stuck. They're keeping them from the discrepancy between where they are and where they want to go is because of those beliefs. So the first thing I do is I help them uncover them so they're free of them. They can give themselves new empowering beliefs. You know, their voice does matter. They're not broken. They're open for love. All of those things. We give ourselves new beliefs and we make new neural pathways to support those instead of the ones that came out of our childhood, our traumas, our dramas, everything that is keeping us small. So that's what I do. I also work with relationships and marriage counseling and you name it. I work with it. I just because what happens is that if I'll get a client and I don't feel that I know enough in that area, all right, I look for a certification and I add those tools to my toolbox and I just keep on running. So
that's awesome.
That's why I have so many. Yeah.
No, but that's good, you know, because you have different ways you can approach situation your clients are experiencing, which I believe is awesome, right? I think that at the end of the day, when you're an entrepreneur, that's pretty much what you're becoming, right? Someone who can become resourceful, have different tools in your toolbox that you can use in different situations. But two things. First of all, I'm jealous because you live in Colorado. I used to live there a couple of years ago. I live in Broomfield near Boulder, but I think
people love Boulder.
It is nice, you know, but we already made the decision that I think our main house with my wife is going to be in Colorado. I want to wake up every morning, you know, get out to my balcony, light up a cigar,
So do
look at
I
the
every
Rocky
day.
Rocky
Gorgeous.
Mountains every day, you know. So I think
Every day.
that's decided. So now we need to start working into finding the perfect property down there, you know. So,
Hmm.
but the second thing I wanted to bring up, you mentioned something about limiting beliefs and all these kind of things, and a lot of people are not aware of it. What's going on in the
Yeah.
back of their head, and I really want us to help us understand this because let me share an experience that I had like about 6 months ago. I was one day sitting on my home office, and I was really stressed and I was anxious. I noticed that there was this pattern that I was experiencing for a while already. And I was like, why in the hell I'm feeling this way? Because I will be working, doing something, and eventually it's just I just start feeling that way. But one day I stopped and I was like, okay, there's something going on here. And for some reason, I came to realize that there was something going in the back of my head. And it was all these limiting beliefs. And it was a bunch of negativity going in the back of my head. And I'm like, I need to try to overcome this. And I do believe one of the hardest things you're ever going to do in your life is to overcome those limiting beliefs and those fears and all that stuff. But I was able and I was lucky enough to identify them. And one of the things that I started doing is I grabbed these index cards and I started every day that I will feel that way, I will stop and I will just try to figure out what's going on. And I will wrote down the negative thoughts. And then on the opposite, I will write a positive thoughts. And I still have those cards on my desk and I always review them because it's like you were saying, you need to change the thought processes in our head and all that stuff. And you are the expert on this. But I know there's a lot of people that don't understand this or they're not aware of this. I believe that I was lucky enough because I'm into self-development. So I kind of like understand a little bit of this. But tell us more about like someone who's going through all that stuff and sometimes like they're stressed, they're anxious, they don't understand why, how they can start identifying those things in their lives, you know, those limiting beliefs and fears that sometimes
Sure.
stop them from accomplishing so many things in life.
I'd be happy to, but I also want to commend you for actually feeling your feelings and feeling what's going on in your body and being awake enough to feel those feelings. So that's the first step right there. You were able to recognize that something was going on in your body. There's some anxiety, there's some feelings. You start to say to yourself, what is the universe trying to show me here? What are those feelings trying to tell me? There's something there. There's actually something that's trying to keep you small and you're
Yeah.
trying to get bigger. And there's something in there that's trying to keep you small. So, what is that? What does that look like? What is it trying to tell me? So, I'll just explain a little bit how shadow beliefs are born and
Okay.
what they really are, because people don't even know that concept of shadow beliefs. So, under the age of 10, things happen to us and we're not emotionally mature enough to give it a meaning. And I mean, fortunately, I work with a lot of clients who have had a lot of trauma in their life. So they have even more deep seated beliefs, but we all have them. You can't get through life without having them. So I'll give you some examples. Like for me personally, when I was 5 years old, I was playing with a lighter that was out on the table, put myself on fire. I was in the hospital
Oh,
for a
wow.
week. Yeah, but I don't have like any scars on my body. And so the conscious mind really didn't think it was that big deal. I didn't get punished because I was alive. I went on with my life. Well, when I turned 50 and I now was divorced and I was in a car accident. And again, like this is the second time in my life I almost died. I did work with a shadow coach. And what came out was that there was the little 5-year-old girl who was inside of me. One of my like sub personalities decided in that moment of 5, I wasn't safe alone. That makes perfect sense for a little girl who puts herself on fire. I wasn't safe alone. Look what I did when I was alone. As a 50-year-old woman, still carrying around that childhood belief, I was divorced and I was so unhappy and I was trying to fix that picture, all because this little girl was still inside of me, trying to fix that picture and think that I couldn't be safe by myself. So that's an example from me. An example, let's say, from you've got 4 children in your life, you're the youngest of 4. There's a big disparity in age. Nobody cares about your opinion. Nobody asks your opinion. And you grow up believing my voice doesn't matter, or I need to stay quiet to be safe. Because in that family, you'd get ridiculed or mocked or, beat up or whatever would happen to you. You learned to contain your voice and your feelings. Then you grow up and now you're married and you're walled off. You don't share in your marriage your feelings or your emotions, or you just go along to get along, or you're in the corporate world and you are in meetings and you never share because that child inside of you is like, no go, don't do it. So the
Yeah.
very belief that kept you safe as a child keeps you small as an adult. You get passed over in job. Maybe your wife or your partner leaves you because you're so walled off and they can't get in and you're not in touch with your feelings. All of these things, they play out. So some common shadow beliefs are, I need to be perfect to be safe, or I need to be perfect to be loved. My
Yeah.
voice doesn't matter. I'm broken. I'm not good with money, or spiritual people or religious people don't care about money. I'm unlovable. I'll never be chosen. All of these beliefs that we came by honestly, and they did keep us safe as a child, but they are only keeping us small. So when I start to work with somebody, those are, people, especially people who have a lot of fears and haven't learned how to use their fear to their benefit, underneath all of those fears are these beliefs
Hmm.
that I'm just not good enough.
I can understand exactly what you're saying because like you mentioned, I have the opportunity sometimes. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to identify those things, and how to overcome those things. But I believe sometimes people think that they're never going to get rid of them. Do you believe people, like in your experience, those people can get rid of those thoughts, so they just learn to control them in the long term? Because I'm
No,
a huge
you can't
believer.
get
Like,
rid of them.
what was that?
No, finish your sentence. But yes, I believe you can change them.
Yeah, no, but sometimes I believe we always hear like this imposter syndrome that like some of my coaches call them the bitch boys, right in the back of your head. A lot of people when they ask me like, man, how do you overcome these little things? Like how do you keep doing all these podcasts and all that stuff? Like you don't have like imposter syndrome, you don't have that voice telling you that you can. Like, man, after almost 120 episodes, I still have that voice every day, or at least before every episode. But I learned to control it. I learned to ignore it. And I learned that every time I'm gonna level up, there's gonna be that voice is gonna be there telling me that I can't. Do you think it's important to understand that? Yeah, you can learn how to change it, or how to control it, or how to deal with it, or can you get completely rid of it?
Well, a couple of different things. You said a couple of things there. Number one, with the imposter syndrome, I also, every time I level up, I get that imposter syndrome. When I get it, I recognize that I have to do the very thing I'm afraid to do. That's how I use fear as a driving force for change. I was asked 6 months ago to build a course for Gen Connect You. It's an online platform. And when they first asked me, of course, I said yes immediately. And
Yeah,
then the crap sets in. Oh my God, they must think you're better than you are. They probably don't know. They're looking at your social media. They think you're bigger than you are. All the baloney you say to yourself. But I knew that the moment I stepped in and built that course, I was then going to be a course creator.
yeah,
So the very thing that I said I'm not good enough, I was about to be good enough. And you just have to step in. So that part, that the imposter syndrome never goes away. There's like a chorus going on. Like you're right, those bad boys in the back, they're always there because your brain likes what it knows. It doesn't care about growth. It wants what it knows. That's why you could end up marrying somebody who's an alcoholic, just like your father was, because even though that's the last thing you really want to do, it's cognitive dissonance. Your brain likes what it knows. It's comfortable. It says,
yeah.
I've already lived through that. I can live through that again. So that's why we repeat the same things over and over again. And our brain wants to keep us small and keep us there. Like our brain doesn't actually like to expend calories. It's lazy. And so it takes the quickest way. It really is. It doesn't like to expend any calories. And so it likes to do what it knows. So that's that. The thing about the disempowering beliefs is that when you bring them to your conscious awareness, just the bringing out into the open, it sheds light on them. And because they were formed in your childhood, when you see them out, you're like, oh gosh, I understand how come I had that belief. But I also know that from my wise adult brain, that belief is no longer needs to be true. And so I give myself a new empowering belief that supports my vision and goals for where I want to go. It supports my conscious, wise adult brain. And then I do things like, so for me, when I was afraid of being alone, I had to step out and do things. I traveled to Thailand alone. I went and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro alone. I did these things to prove to myself that old belief no longer has to control you. And
Right.
let's prove it. So, in doing those things, you actually are changing the neuroplasticity in your brain. You're creating new neural pathways that are going to be, I'm safe alone. I'm
Yeah.
safe alone. I'm safe alone. So it's not a one and done. You can uncover a belief and you can make changes. And 6 months or a year from now, you catch yourself. Oh, yeah, there's that old stinky little belief again. And so you
Yeah.
work on it again. And every time you work on it, you've peeled away more and more layers of the onion to get to
Yeah.
the essence of who you really are. And then those beliefs, they don't have to come back again.
No, so the reason why I ask you that is because I think there's a lot of people, and I made that mistake too at some point, that I think at some point we all believe that we can go through this life without having to deal with things like that we can just like one time we fix it, then it's gone forever. And I think that's a huge mistake that we all of us have done at some point in our lives. At least I have done that, and try to live a life without issues, which is never going to happen. And I'm okay with that now because now I have a different mindset, right? Actually, I run through the struggle. I don't let the struggle come to me, because if I let the struggle come to me, it's different. It hits you harder.
I say something like that. I
But
say to the universe, bring me all the small examples you want. I no longer need the big ones. Like,
yeah,
you don't have to hit me with over the head till I'm down on the ground. Give me the small examples. I'm paying attention, and I'll make the changes. I don't
right.
have to wait for the big ones.
But where I was going was, I think a lot of people struggle at the end because, like you were saying, you can fix things right now, or you can identify the issue, you can work on it. And a year from now, like, you change your mindset. You don't limiting belief is not holding you back anymore. But eventually, like a year from now, you're like going through that stuff again. And I think people doesn't prepare for those things. People think that they're gonna just go and fix it one time, because that's what we do in our world nowadays, right? Everything is just placeable. You fix it, you just change it, you find something new, and then you move on, forget the issue. But it doesn't work the same way with our minds, with our lives, with our beliefs and things like that. How do you approach people that have this type of mentality? How do you help them understand that even if they are able to overcome those limiting beliefs, that at some point, eventually they have to be prepared? Because at some point they might come back, take them in a moment of weakness, and these limiting beliefs may try to cripple in again. But how do you help them understand this and understand that this is a process? Because I think it's the key. It's a process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen, not going to change all the time.
No, well, I think that people have to really get in touch with their self-esteem, their self-love, and their self-trust. So there are a lot of people, men, there's faulty self-esteem, like there's achievement based, which is what generally men are brought up to have. They are important or special or great because of what they've achieved. Or another faulty self-esteem is acquisition. I drive a big car, so I'm a good person. I'm important because I have a trophy wife, all of these things. Or what women usually have is other referenced. I'm important because my partner thinks I'm important. Or I'm important because I have a lot of friends. I'm important because people think I'm a good person. We have to get to a place where we hold ourselves in warm regard for ourselves, regardless of what we have, who we know, what other people think. And so if you hold yourself in warm regard, even though you have disempowering beliefs, even though you fall and you fail and you have to try new things and not everything you do is successful and you have drama in your life, if you can stay central to that, I hold myself in warm regard, even though, then you won't take those kinds of setbacks as bigger than they are. And you will learn, like I say all the time, I love my awesomeness, but I love my flawsomeness. I know the things I'm good at. I know the things I'm not good at. I can use failure as a stepping stone for success. And so when I fall or I fail at something, I stop and I look at it. All right, what's the universe trying to show me? Is there an underlying belief that I'm giving into? Like, what's going on here? Don't just
Yeah.
be on autopilot. Really look at your lessons and look at your life. And so when you keep having an old belief come back up, it's not so hard to get rid of it again because it's up in the subconscious, or it's up in the conscious level already. You
Yeah.
recognize it. Oh, there's that fear again. There's that dumb voice again. You recognize it. And then it's easier the next time and the next time to do something differently.
No, I agree with that. And you mentioned something important when it comes to all these limiting beliefs. And I think one of the big influences in this world, I mean, that's what the world is trying to do, right? That's what social media, well, that's what we all see on social media, right? All these people
Right.
trying to bring the flaws in other people, really just like one mistake that somebody did 10 years ago, or not even that long ago, but someone makes a mistake and everybody else is
Hmm.
trying to pretty much ruin their lives, right? Like if somebody else out there is perfect, right? But you mentioned something in regards to that about how really just being in peace with your flaws, you know, like, and let's say, yeah, being in peace with your flaws, understanding what you're not good at, one thing you should be working on. When it comes to bad experiences, things that you did that you know that they were wrong, like you, let's say that you got drunk and you hurt somebody because you were not in your best, your mind wasn't right at that point, and then you hurt people and things like that. How do you start changing those things that you know that it's not because you have some flaws, because you're not perfect as human, but that happened because you were not responsible of your actions?
You can do bad things without being a bad person.
I like that.
And so, what happens when people do something that's bad, if deep inside they have contempt, they're shining the light of contempt on themselves, then they're in toxic shame. They're not just in shame, oh, I did something bad. I'm a bad person. Better to have guilt. Guilt means you did something bad, but it doesn't mean you're a bad person. And so we all do things that we're not proud of. And unfortunately, lots of times people do things that really could hurt somebody or could
Yeah.
be really bad for somebody else. And so make peace with it, acknowledge it, do better. Don't let it take you down. Like, yes, you should feel guilty. Something bad, you did a bad thing, but you're not a bad person. You could be abusive to your wife for 20 years. And when you finally really get down and somebody helps you see what you're doing, and that you had that as a child, and so you got it modeled to you as a child, and you're not even in your mind that you're doing what was being done to you. I can say to that client, you've done a lot of bad things, but I really think you're a good person. And so
Yeah.
you can start to change.
Yeah. I really
Otherwise,
appreciate.
you're one and done, right? You've done one bad thing and your life is over.
Yeah, yeah, but that's what society tells you. That's why you need to not listen to society, because that is pretty much what's going on out there. We see it all around with all this cancel culture and things like that. But I really appreciate
Mhm.
you sharing that. You know, like I think that's a great example about someone who maybe was abusive in their relationship for years, decades, and then finally they realized that they were doing something wrong. I think that's really good because I think we do some things in our lives for long periods of times, and I think that's the biggest guilt that we try to. I mean, I have different situations in my life that I was like, man, I can't believe I was doing that for so many years, and it's hard to overcome that guilt. It's hard to understand that regardless of what you did wrong, I mean, you're still a good person, you know. And I think that's really powerful because I know there's a lot of people that go through life with all those guilt, that feel guilty for everything, that and that affects everything around in their lives, regardless if it's related to that issue or not. And but I think it's just giving yourself that grace, you know, and really just listening to the right people, listening to the right things, putting the right things in your mindset, creating the right habits, which that's my next question. So when you're helping people overcome things like that, what are some of the habits that you help them create so they can start moving their lives and their mindsets towards a different direction?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a global question. It really depends on what is the thing that they're
Yeah,
trying to overcome. So if it's being an abusive partner is different than somebody who always makes the wrong choice or doesn't speak, has leaky boundaries, or, doesn't make themselves a priority and set healthy boundaries. It really depends on what we're talking about. Basically, it's uncovering the things that you've been doing and then giving yourself actionable steps that are in alignment with where you say you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go, that's the first thing you have to do is figure out what is your soul's vision for yourself, not your head, where your ego and all your disempowering beliefs are, but like, what does your soul want for you? And
yeah,
what will make you dance? What will make you sing inside? And those are the things that you want to go after. And then when you figure that out and you start to make one step after another, one small actionable step outside your comfort zone, one at a time, to prove to yourself that number one, you can do scary things, you can do hard things. Even if you're not successful, the way you feel about yourself for getting out there and trying will keep you trying and doing and doing and doing. So all of the changes are small step by step changes. It's not overnight. There's the joke, how do you eat an elephant? One bite
yeah,
at a time.
that's right.
So the elephant is whatever this big thing is you want to do in your life. You do it one step at a time.
Yeah, that
That's
is
how you
so true.
make lasting changes.
which is one of the hardest things for me. Well, it was one of the hardest things for me to learn because I want to take it all. It's just
Immediately, right.
immediately. It's like I want to change everything immediately, and I think it's something that I really had to work on myself and really learn patience. And patience is such a powerful thing, because really, really teaches so many other things. But wow, yeah, just to think about it is just crazy. But now, yeah, I agree with you. That was more like a global question, but one of the things that you mentioned right now is you have to ask yourself what it is that you want. What do you think people struggle in answering that question? Because I think a lot of people is afraid of asking themselves like what it is that you want. Like I'm sure you have done it. I have sat down for hours and asked myself that question, like what it is that I want. And it's not an easy question to answer. I don't know if it was because of the fear of realizing that I was messing up my life, or I was not going in the right direction, or I was putting my energy and my focus on the wrong things. But it was a hard question to ask myself and answer it. But when I started answering, it was a game changer. But I do believe, because this is a question topic that we discuss a lot in my circles and in my network and my sphere of influence, and how people really, really struggle answering that question. What do you think it is the main reason why people don't even want to ask themselves that question?
Well, I think that we all grow up with influences from other people. We are all other influenced, other referenced to a certain time. So, what did your parents want you to be? Or what did you see in your parents and make a decision? I will not be that, or I will be that. What does your partner want for you? What do your children, if you have them, want for you? We're so busy seeing what other people want for us, or what we think society wants for us, or what we think will make us happy. I mean, I think one of the biggest issues is that you either think you need to go for something and you fall short. So now you have contempt for yourself, or you get that holy grail and you're still unhappy. And now
Yeah,
you've got contempt for like the world. I did all the right things, and why aren't I happy? I have all the things I thought I needed to be happy, and I'm still not happy.
yeah,
So, I mean, what's interesting is that I can't say I really sit down and think about what my next goals and visions are. I'm sort of the kind of person that knows it when it gets put in front of me.
yeah.
I'm now in this 2-year certification for marriage and therapy counseling. If you had asked me that 6 months ago, it would have been like, are you kidding me? No.
Yeah,
But then all of a sudden, something comes up. I read something, I hear something, and I'm like, oh my God, I want this. I can do
yeah,
this. I didn't even know this was available to me. And there I
yeah,
am. I'm off and running to the horses. So to the races. And so you also have to listen. The universe is always showing you.
yeah,
It is throwing gifts in your face all the time. But if
yeah,
you're not open to them, you won't even see them.
yeah.
So I'm sort of a person that is open. I see them, I hear them, and then I don't even hesitate. I'm off, and I'm
That's
never
great.
sorry. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
never sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. It reminds me. A friend of mine was talking one time in social media. How made this post. He bought all this land in Utah, and he started like working the land and building some stuff, and got himself a cowboy hat and boots and all that stuff. And a lot of people started judging him. It's like, oh, what do you think? You're a cowboy now? And then he made this post, which went viral, by the way. He's like talking about that, like, why are you limiting yourself? Why are you limiting yourself? Like, be whoever you want to be. Like,
Mhm.
if today you want to be a cowboy and tomorrow you want to be, I don't know, whatever else, just go
A
for it and do it.
princess,
Yeah,
right?
Prince.
Be a
Yeah,
cowboy today and be a
yeah,
princess tomorrow. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Do whatever you want. Well, more like a prince, I guess, but but
Well, I
yeah,
mean, be open to all of you,
yeah,
all your
open.
feelings, all your emotions, your
Exactly.
feminine side, your masculine side, everything.
Exactly,
Be
and just
whole.
be who you are. Exactly, be whole. Just do whatever it is that makes you happy. And I feel that that's
Mhm.
exactly what you do. That's why you have all these certifications. I don't feel like it's because you just want to see what else you can get. It's just because why not? I can be this person for my clients too. I can have this
Yeah.
knowledge for these other clients on these other side. I can have all these tools, like we were saying at the beginning, that can help more people around me, or can provide different services, your clients and whatnot. And just being whoever the hell you want to
Exactly.
be. That is
Exactly.
so
There are
powerful,
no
and that's so
limits. There
liberating.
are no
Yeah.
limits
And now you
unless you
said
set them
something.
for yourself.
Yeah, you mentioned something about influence. That was one of my favorite topics to discuss, influence, but in a form of like who you surround yourself with and the people around you. I'm a huge believer that alignments are more important than your assignments. What you do in life, who you surround yourself with is more important than what you do in your life. Because if you have the wrong people around you, you're never going to make it. And I think that's one of the things that people struggle a lot. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I don't struggle a lot. I can walk away from everybody at any time. I don't care if it's my family, which I did that 10 years ago, left my country, moved here. I literally just gave the middle finger to my family and walked away without asking questions or for permission. So I know that I have that ability to do things like that. But not many people can't. They're so attached to them. They're so attached to the people around them, the people that they grew up with. And sometimes I believe that that's the reason why they're not grow. They don't find that purpose. They don't get rid of those limiting beliefs because they're just so attached to the people around them. It's like, oh, and what do you think now? You're a motivational person online? Or who do you think you are? Gonna go and start a business? Like you don't come from that. You know, you come from this background or that background and like all this kind of bullshit, you know, that I hate people.
Yeah, they want to
talking
keep you
about.
small as they're keeping themselves.
Exactly. How do you help people overcome this? Because for like I said, for me, it's easy. And sometimes when I tell people like, hey man, this is how I do it, it's hard for them to understand because no many people have the courage to just walk away from people in their lives. You know what I mean?
I don't necessarily think that you have to walk away from people in your life unless those people are not supporting you. But also, I don't think you should not do what you want to do. So when I have clients that maybe they have that shadow belief, if I change jobs or I move or I do this, I'll lose my family or they won't love me or my friends won't understand. And then I kind of go into worst case scenarios. Well, what's the worst thing that could happen if
Yeah.
you move or if you take that job? And, I tell people that other people's reaction to your truth is not your responsibility. If they can't handle it, they can't handle it. That should not get in your way. You need
Yeah.
to be who you need to be. And obviously, you try not to hurt anybody along the way. You still have to. I work with worst case scenarios all the time because people have all these fears about all these worst case scenarios. But when you actually ask them about it, number one, there's probably like a half a percentage that worst case scenario could happen. Even if it happens, and I say to you, okay, so now that happened, now what will you do? And they're like, there's always something you're going to do.
Yeah.
You're still going to survive. So the fears are so misguided and so much worse than the reality that it's basically an exercise in talking them through. Okay, so then what will happen? Then what will happen? And if that happens, then what will happen? And all of
Yeah.
a sudden they're like, wow, like my fears are really worse than, like my mother, she passed away just a little over a year ago, but she was the biggest worrier in the whole world. She
Yeah.
worried about everything. None of them ever happened. That was her MO. Worry, worry, worry. I used to
Yeah.
laugh at her. I used to joke about it with her. All right, mom, you just stay home and worry. I'm going for a hike. I'll call you later.
That sounds like my dad. He lives in such fear and
Yeah,
worry all the time. It's really hard to have a conversation with him, you know. But yeah, I do believe that like I was saying, sometimes you have to separate. Like you said, it's not that you're losing your family. Well,
right.
I believe some of them you will, and I have experienced that. There's family members that I know that I will never have a relationship with them in my life, not because of me, just because they don't agree with what I do. You know, they just have an issue with who I am, and that's completely fine. There's other family members that I have separated myself with that I'm able to get back and have a relationship with them. But one of the things that we always talk about is your family of origin, your family of choice, right?
Right.
Your family of origin, most likely in most cases, when you go down a path of entrepreneurship, for example, that's what my audience is, right? Entrepreneurship. This is not an easy
Mhm.
path, and especially if you come from a family that dedicate their life to a job and not really pursuing things like that and not really pursuing bigger goals like becoming millionaires and things like that, scares them, you know, and it becomes judgmental from their side for everything that you're doing. And I have experienced that. But then you have your family of choice. That is the people that you pick along the way, right? That right people that are in the right same mission as you or similar mission as you. Like they understand where you're going. They have
Mhm.
similar beliefs. They have similar core values. They have similar goals. You start picking those peoples along the way. But I believe that's what I was saying. I do believe that if you don't separate yourself at least for a season from the people that is stopping you, first of all, the right people is going to come back to you. The wrong ones are going to go away. You know, like
Yeah, I agree.
all my friends from 10 years ago, they don't exist in my life anymore, and they will never exist again, just because they don't understand my life and my journey.
Mhm.
But
Well, I think they get afraid and they don't want
yeah,
to. I think your changing makes them second guess
yeah,
their life, and nobody wants that in their face.
yeah,
So so I agree with you. If the people in your life don't support your growth, then they're not the right people in your life.
And that's
you
why I'm bringing
know?
that up because sometimes can be your family, and it's
Right.
hard. It is
Yeah.
so freaking
Yeah.
hard. It's not easy, like even just friends, like friends from childhood that are like the closest things to family, probably. It
Hmm.
is hard to get away from them, and it is hard to see that they don't understand your journey and they decide to judge you. Like you said, their fear of seeing your life changing, which shouldn't stop you also from doing what you're doing, or really, it should actually motivate you to do better because I believe eventually they might get influenced by your changes. They might be influenced by the life you're
I
living,
agree. And
you
they
know,
see how they see what you've become. I mean,
and that gives them a
my
choice, I
family
believe.
and my,
That gives them
would
a
you say?
choice to say, that gives
Yeah.
them a choice, to say, like,
Yeah.
well,
Oh,
why I
look,
should
look
probably
what he
change my
did.
life too. Yeah.
Yeah. I could
Or
do
stay
this
the
too.
same.
Yeah. You lead by example and
Absolutely.
they don't have to follow you. And if you care about each other, you can be happy for each other. It's a very small-minded people
Yeah,
who can't just wish you well and be happy when you succeed.
exactly.
But if those people are in your life, then you need to get rid of them.
I agree with you. So yeah, that's where I was going with that, because then
Hmm.
also if you don't like you don't make room for the right people to come in your life, because when you find
Right.
yourself at the right place with the right people at the right time, that's when the right things happen. But if you not take the wrong people from your life, the other three components they're not gonna work in your life. So everything that is right for you is not gonna be able to happen. You were saying something about your family.
Thinking about what you were saying, and
Oh,
I can honestly say that my family and even all of my friends, even my friends from before, they're just proud of me.
nice.
I've changed who some of my friends are because I have moved into a more spiritual, enlightened thinking. And I like to have those kinds of conversations
Yeah,
with people. I surround myself with people when I want to have those kinds of conversations. I don't have to lose my other friends because nobody has ever said or done anything to make me feel that they weren't proud of where I've become and what I've done and how I've changed. It all depends on who your friends and who your family are. That's a
yeah.
very personal situation.
Oh, that's great to hear. Like I mean, I believe that's a blessing. That you have
Oh
people like
yeah,
that in
no,
your
I
life
I I,
because
I
it's
am blessed. Yeah.
I think that's I will dare to say that's probably the exception because most of the people that I know they have gone through a season in their life where everybody else that who they have in their life and grew up with they're not there anymore just because they decided to change and choose a different path, become successful, and really start working towards becoming the most elite version of themselves. It's really interesting how that works. But anyway, Nancy, it's been great having you here today. It's been interesting learning about all these limiting beliefs and all that stuff. I think it's powerful because that's where everything starts, right? In our minds. Doesn't matter what are you trying to
Everything,
accomplish.
right.
Yeah.
Our
So, and I
lazy little
think,
brains.
yeah, and I think fear is something that definitely stops a lot of people from achieving things or starting a new business or going after a new venture or doing things like that and being in front of a camera and a microphone or whatever they want to do. So I think it's really powerful to have these type of conversations because we definitely live in a world full of fear.
I agree. And I think that on the last note, people think that successful people have no fear. And it's
Exactly.
not true. We've just learned to not give up and to take fear with us, to have compassion for it, but to move forward anyway. And
Yes,
the only people that fail are the people, or the only people that don't succeed are the people that give up. If you
exactly.
stay with it long enough, even if it doesn't turn out the way you first thought it would, you've gone down and you going to take a road that wasn't even in your vision before,
Yeah.
and you're going to go down that road. So, I like to say that the last man in a race still beats the man on the couch. So
Oh, heck
get
yeah.
off and get going.
It reminds me to the man in the arena. That's one of my favorite quotes out there. Have you heard about that? The man of the arena
Uh-uh.
by Teddy
No.
Roosevelt says, let me pull it up real quick. It's actually really powerful. Let me pull it out here quick in the arena. And we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. I spoke at an event with Navy SEALs, and which is some of the people that have taught me all of this stuff. Like really going hard,
Hmm.
doing the hard things every single day because or going against the struggle, like you taking yourself into the struggle because when the struggle comes after you, that's when things get worse. But it says that it
Hmm.
is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, errs, comes short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who notes great enthusiasms, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotion, who spent himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
I love it. It's great.
That was one of my favorite ones. So
It's perfect. It's a good
awesome,
one.
yeah.
I never heard it before. I've
Really?
heard
Yeah.
the one about defeat. There's something you said in there I'd heard before, but no, that's great. And it's true. And it's usually the people criticize the most who do the least.
That is
Because
true.
you know
Because they
what?
don't,
Those of us who do a lot and try a lot and fail a lot, we are proud of people just for trying. So we're not
yeah,
judging on their success. I say the
yeah,
juice is in the journey. And
yeah.
that's where you need to keep your mindset.
I agree with you. Like you have to choose your heart, because everything is hard. That's another thing that we always talk about. Like it really just put it into perspective before we start closing here. Making money is hard. But being broke is hard too. Being
Right.
unhealthy, being overweight
Right.
is hard. But getting healthy, getting in shape is hard as well.
It's hard too. They're all hard.
But exactly, like
That's
being,
why I wrote the book, Bigger, Better, Braver. You
yeah,
just got to get out there and keep trying, keep doing
absolutely.
bigger.
Which definitely
Keep
gonna
being
put the link on
better.
the description if people wants to buy your book. But Nancy,
Oh,
once
great.
again, it's been great having you here. I really enjoy this conversation. If people wants to reach out to you, they want to get to know more about your work or connect with you, or even see if they can work with you, where people can find you. We're gonna put it on the link, but just tell us where people can find you.
Everything is on my website, Nancy Pickard, Pickard, lifecoach.com. I give a free session to see if coaching is something that would be valuable for you. There's a free chapter of my book. There's a link to buy my book. There's a zillion podcasts. So if you liked what we said today, you could listen to 30 other ones that are all on my website. Yours will be on too. And yeah, it's all there. You can email me. That's on my website, and I'm happy to connect. I love to
Perfect.
connect. They can
Yeah.
follow me on social media, Nancy Pickard Life Coach. I'm on every platform.
Perfect. We're definitely going to put all those links in the description so people can reach out to you.
Awesome.
Again, thank you for coming to the show. I really appreciate you sharing your time with us and your knowledge. And hopefully we can one day meet. It's nice to do all this online, but I always wish one day I can meet all my guests at some point.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
you're getting there. So one of these days.
Yeah, one of these days, right? So anyway, if you guys enjoyed the show, make sure to share it with somebody, put it on social media, email, tag me, or whatever you can do to help us spread the word. And again, don't forget to leave that review on iTunes so more people can find the show. I will see you guys on the next episode. In the meantime, be safe, keep working hard, and live hard. Later, guys.